People, the Tea Party saved America. And some people don't see it quite that way. A lot of Tea Party people are in the fight. They don't see the big picture. But a lot of outsiders do. There are millions of people around this planet who appreciate what you guys did. Because had you not done that, the entire agenda of the left would have been in the first term, the first 2 years. Card check, cap and trade, green jobs, Obamacare would have been in the first year. 20 million illegals would have been voting in 2014, folks. Maybe 2012. You imagine where you would be now if that had happened. How would you fight back from that, folks? The Tea Party saved America, and they don't get a heck of a lot of thanks for it, quite the opposite. But I'm here to say thank you very much, because without you, we would have very little hope. I'll give you another little example, people, because sometimes I've spoken to, probably 400 Tea Party groups all over this country. I think I've spoken to 43 of the 57 states now. See if you're awake. And look, sometimes I think you're a movement, you're a little bit like baby Superman. You don't know your own strength. Like, you know, amnesty would have been a done deal years ago without you. But I'll tell you another example. I was in Washington, D.C. 2 years ago for the 50th anniversary celebrations of the Institute for Policy Studies. Hardcore guys, these progressives. They used to work with the KGB, now they work with the Cubans. These are the ideas people of the Obama administration. I paid my 75 bucks, I put on my name badge, and I mingled with the Marxists. Because I wanted to know what they're thinking, people. Know thine enemy. That's what my books are about, people. You cannot win a war if you don't know who your enemy is and their strength. So I sat through several sessions and I got bored, folks. I got bored because they talked about one thing all day. You. Tea Party this, Tea Party that. The Tea Parties took the state legislature's office. How did we not see them coming? What are we going to do about them? How did this happen? We've got to do all this work all over again. They were going on about you, bleating on about you all day. It was tedious. They hardly mentioned the GOP. It was all about you. So if you don't understand your own strength, they do. They know you are the only thing, the grassroots is the only thing standing between them and what they want. You are so important, folks. You're so important. I want to do something now that's normally considered very bad manners. But I'm a Kiwi and I can go home, right? Okay? Because you don't go to someone else's country and tell them how to run things, do you? It's just not kosher. But I get asked all the time, you know, what do we do? Do we form a third party? The GOP betrays us? Do we just do local issues? Are we wasting our time? Should we give up? Should we just forget about all this? You know, are we making a difference? My only value to you is as an outside observer. Because often you can see your neighbour's situation more clearly than they can see their own. And this is my view of your situation, folks, for what it's worth. You have 100 years of progressivism to unroll. That might take you 10, 20, 30, 40 years, I don't know. One thing I do know, you've got a massive battle coming up in 2 years. You've got the 2016 presidential election and you have to win it. You have to win. Because otherwise the Democrats are going to dissolve the border and they're going to swamp you. Now there's only one political force that can stop the Democrats in 2 years, and that is the GOP. But the really important question is this: what will the character of that GOP be? Because if the old guard prevail and they give you someone like Jeb, Common Core is great, illegal immigration is an act of love, Bush, you're done, folks. Or Trader McCain, because your base will stay home and the Democrats will win, and either Hillary or Pocahontas will be your next president, folks. You cannot allow that to happen. But if you have someone different, if you have a presidential candidate with a proven record of putting up his fists for the Constitution, or her fists, a proven record, thinks someone with the caliber maybe of a Ted Cruz, for instance, things could be very, very different. I'm getting to that. You just wait. Now, the question is, how do you get there? Because the battle for liberty in your country is a battle for who wins out in the GOP. Democrats are gone, folks. The Republicans are a third progressives, a third go-alongs to get-alongs, and a third patriots. Everything relies on those third patriots and the people that back them up. Well, I want to go back in history a little bit, because I think this is illustrative of where we are now. Go back to 1976. You've been losing your liberties for decades, folks. Republican, Democrat, Republican, Democrat. But that was the year you finally got an alternative, because that was the year a man came out of California who spoke of a shining city on the hill, and peace through strength, and liberty, and the Constitution. And thousands of people loved Ronald Reagan's message, and they got into the GOP to help him get that nomination, and they thought the GOP would just love them. And what did the Republican old guard do about Ronald Reagan, folks? The Karl Roves and the John Boehners of the day. They hated him. They despised Reagan. They sabotaged him. They did everything they could to stop him. Ronald Reagan was far too extreme for the GOP. Ronald Reagan was unelectable. Ronald Reagan was banned from Ohio that year by the Ohio State GOP. And they beat him. They just beat him, and they gave the nomination to Gerald Ford. Ford went up against Jimmy Carter, and Carter won. How did the Carter years work out, guys? Barrel of laughs, were they? Interest rates up to here, gas queues round the corner, gave away the Panama Canal, gutted your military, Iranian hostage crisis. Your second worst ever president, folks. Still suffering from him. And you think, people, how bad was the desperation of those Carter years? Many people thought America would never be great again. Is that true? Yes. But the really important point is this. The grassroots, the people like you, did not give up. They got into that GOP. They took over the precinct committee positions, the township committees, the nominating bodies of the party, and they got ready for 1980. When Reagan ran again, this time they were ready. And this time they would not take no for an answer. This time they forced that bloody GOP to give them their candidate. And Reagan got it, folks. He got the nomination and went up against Jimmy Carter and took him out 48 states to 2. Not bad for an unelectable candidate, right? The Iranian hostages were back on the first day. The interest rates went down. The taxes went down. The economy boomed. He rebuilt your military, and he rebuilt the pride in this country. And he took out the Soviets without firing a shot, folks. Any better president in the 20th century? Anyone even close?
Coolidge.
And what? Yeah, okay. But behind my time. The point, but why did you have a Reagan revolution, folks? Because people just like you stuck it to the Karl Roves and the John Boehners of the day, and you decided the candidate. Could there be a lesson there? Because right now, folks, this country is Jimmy Carter on steroids. And you need Ronald Reagan on meth to turn this around, folks. Not just to go where Reagan did, way beyond Reagan. You have to gut the federal government and restore your constitution. But how are you going to do it? Well, this is my suggestion. If I was a man like Ted Cruz, I'd want to rebuild that Reagan coalition now. Reagan was a genius. He could unite the social conservatives, the fiscal conservatives, the defence conservatives. But right now your base is fractured. You've got 1 million libertarians who gave their vote to Gary Johnson last time. You've got fiscal conservatives, social conservatives, Tea Party Republicans, moderate Republicans. You've got 4 million GOPers who didn't vote last time. And you've got at least 20 million, maybe 30 million evangelical Christians who are not even registered to vote. Imagine what they could do to transform this country. But you may not know this, but a lot of these groups don't like each other very much. Have you heard of that? Okay? Now we are 2 years out from the most important election in world history, people. Can we afford this bickering? So this is what I'd do if I was Ted Cruz. I'd go to all of these groups and say something like this. We've got one shot at this, guys. We have to win. We have to unify. But you won't do that without inspiration and incentive. So this is what we're going to do. I'm going to announce early and run early, and I want to get ahead of the field before the primaries. The first thing I'm going to do is name Alan West on my VP ticket right now. And then I'm going to name my whole cabinet, folks, and we're going to run as a team. I'm going to put Rand Paul as Secretary of the Treasury, and he can do what he damn well wants to the Federal Reserve and the IRS. Carte blanche. And it's going to be Sarah Palin, Secretary of Energy, and it's going to be drill, baby, drill. Drill in your backyard if you want to. $1 a gallon gas for every American family. And it's going to be Scott Walker, Secretary of Labour. And it's going to be right to work in every state. It's going to be Mike Lee, Secretary of the Interior. And he's going to take those lands the federal government stole off you and give them all back to the states, folks. So you can mine them and farm them and get your people working. Then it's going to be Michelle Bachmann, Secretary of Commerce. And she's going to stick it to the EPA in Osh. And she's going to get all your factories working again and get the regulations off your businesses. And then it's going to be Dr. Ben Carson, Secretary of Health and Human Services. And he's going to end the welfare culture in your country and restore dignity to your communities. And then it's going to be John Bolton, Secretary of State. And he's going to give the finger to your enemies, folks, and he's going to rebuild the Western Alliance. And very, very important, Ambassador to the United Nations, no one. Then it's going to be Trey Gowdy, Attorney General. And he's going to end vote fraud in this country, folks. He's going to prosecute and jail anyone caught doing it. And then for all those millions of Christians who don't care about politics, but they do care about the education of their children, I would say to them, vote for me and your millions. We'll make David Barton Secretary of Education. Common Core's gone, homeschooling's protected, your rights are protected. Name your whole cabinet, run as a team. Would you be inspired by a team like that, folks? Get out of bed at 5 o'clock every morning, just can't wait to go door knocking and phone banking. Get your neighbours involved, hold block parties. Wouldn't you be enthused? Yes. Inspired? Yes. And would it unify the base? Because everybody's getting something, right? Everybody's got someone to inspire them. You might not like Sarah Palin, but you love Michelle Bachmann. You might not like John Bolton, but you love Alan West. Everybody's got someone to inspire them. Because right now, folks, you have a big problem. Every 4 years, the GOP puts up some wimp and the media rips him to pieces. But what would the media do if Ted Cruz was running in this country with a team of 20 Rottweilers who are all backing each other up and not taking any crap from anyone? How would they handle that one, folks? So what I'm asking for you, he is eligible, sir, I'll deal with that later. What I'm asking for you is 2 more years of the hardest political work you have ever done. I know what this cost you guys, and the time and energy and commitment. The time away from your hobbies, the time away from your friends, the time away from your families. I know your grandchildren sometimes don't understand why you can't come to their soccer game on Saturday.
Oh, yeah, they do.
Well, good for you, man. But I know what this costs, and I'm asking for more of it, people. Because 2 years is going to decide the fate of not just your country, but my country. Not just your children, folks, but my children. And I can't promise you very much, but I can promise you 2 things. If you do nothing, your children will live in slavery. But if you give it everything you've got for the next 2 years, you give it blood, sweat and tears, the very least I can promise you is the right to look your children in the eye and say, I did everything I could. What is that worth to you, folks? And if you win, and you can win, you'll give your children not just the amazing country you inherited, but one even greater. Is anything more worth fighting for, folks? So I want to say to you folks, thank you so much for what you do to America, for America, and for my country, and for liberty. God bless America. God bless Bear Witness. God bless the Tea Party. Thank you very much.
I think we have a friend of America here. Okay, we're now going to have some question and answers.